Hi guys, I promised that I would show you at least one of my altars. Sorry for the shakiness of the video, but I definitely wanted to show you one of them, and because this is my main working altar, the one that's in my bedroom, this is the one that tends to get rearranged the most, and it's set up for Lammas or Freyfaxi. It's going to get rearranged soon, so I wanted to show you what I have going on now before that happens. I've also got a few tips for people who are on a budget. I tend to use bandanas as altar cloths, which is a great little money-saving tip. I've got a whole bunch of different colors. So obviously for the harvest season, I'm using yellow. And I have these little prayer cards, which I get from an Etsy shop called Weird Curiosities, and they're only $4 each. I'm not going to show you the prayer on the other side, but they do have prayers. But since they're so cheap and they are, the creator does need to make a profit, and she shows the gorgeous pagan art. I'm not going to show you the prayer, but they are really incredible. So this is Freyr, this is Dogger, which is day, and this is Odin, of course. You can probably recognize him. And down here is, I may not be pronouncing this correctly, this is Nurtrus, which is an Etruscan god, kind of analogous to Poseidon, but I just found the art with the tusk really striking, so I just had to get it. I've got a whole bunch of these cards, and they're just really beautiful, and it's really great to be bringing polytheist art into the world again. Full disclosure, I do have one of my own poems on the back of the Egyptian god Crumb card, but I'm not getting any proceeds from it at all, so it's not like I am getting anything from it. And in fact, I believe the creator only put my poem on half of them because he couldn't decide between two of them. So if you did want the one with my poem on it, you'd have to actually put in the notes that you want the one with Amanda Forrester's card, Amanda Forrester's poem. But I would still be using these whether or not. I'm just sharing what I do. You might notice that my lighter has a little symbol on it. That is the astrological symbol for Vesta, the asteroid Vesta, which is, of course, the goddess, the Roman goddess, and Hestia, the goddess of the hearth. And so that way, symbolically, whenever I am lighting my candles, I am lighting them with the eternal flame of Olympus. So these are my Odin prayer beads, something else that I got from a Pagan store. I'll include the link to them too. I don't use those every day. Those are not my daily devotions. I'm trying to do that on every Wednesday, but with work that's really difficult. My devotions are already kind of long, so that's a new habit I'm trying to do. But I use my Odin prayer beads every time I do divination. My rituals for whenever I read runes for clients are quite long, so these are used every Sunday that I do rituals, for sure. This was offered to Frey, which is I'm trying not to burn it, which is a braid of spring onions. So that is going to be probably hung up here for the next year and then buried or burned next year when I make a new one. This is the whiskey that I offer to Odin every single day. I put not a whole cup full, but eventually when it gets full, it gets poured out. But I offer a little bit of whiskey to Odin in my morning devotions. Amber, which is a very sacred stone in the northern tradition. So just a lot of different things. My runes, selenite, sage. I'm sure you all recognize sage. I use cedar for connecting to the ancestors instead of sage or mugwort. Palo Santo, barley, which is one of the most common and most sacred purifying offerings in Greek polytheism. Thor, which was, of course, a little pop figurine for Marvel, but I used a pin to make his hair red and to make him more in line with what he looks like in the mythology and more like an actual Thor figurine. Kernips, which is Greek holy water, which is used for purifying, which would be made with pure water. My water here, unfortunately, is really hard. I need to get a new container for it, so there's minerals on it. So it's actually, I'm afraid, not as pure as it should be. I would really like to, I'm going to start making it with bottled water instead of the tap water because of the minerals that are in my water. But for now, it's okay. But, you would purify it with burning laurel leaf. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, which is another tip for pagans who don't have very much money, is often statues. We love our statues, don't we? Well, I don't have much money for a lot of statues, and one of my favorite devotional activities is collages. I love to make collages. So right now, this is set up for Hermes and the Muses. The reason for that is because we just came out of Mercury retrograde, so I was hoping he would be kind. And it wasn't too bad for me. It seemed to bring a lot of chaos to other people in my life, but emotionally, this Mercury retrograde was not as rough on me as the last one was. Thank you, Hermes. But it was a little chaotic for some other people. So excuse the jostling while I bring my notebook out, but I want to show you the other ones because I will flip to whatever god I am praising when I reset my altar. So, let's avoid the fire here. Alright, that's actually also the title of one of the poetry books I've published, Songs of Praise. But, alright, I hope that you can see this. The first one is Nyx, the primordial daughter of Chaos in Greece, the first god and the one that Earth is born from. Now these, you can see some of these are from old tarot decks. You don't have to cut them up if you don't want to, but I have used them. I'm not ashamed of that. This is from a Sacred Source catalog. You can obviously see that some of this is, let's see, what does that say? Everything originates from the seed of determination. That is actually a fortune cookie. And these are from, this is a postcard. These are from magazine advertisements, but I really like the collage. And this is poetry that I printed out from the internet from other people. Some of it's mine, some of it's from other people, in praise of that god, that deity. So this is Nyx, Mother Night, and the next one, of course, is Mother Earth, Gaia. And so it takes me quite a long time to make these collages, and I have a box where I'm collecting pictures, and I don't use all the pictures that I collect, but I put a lot of thought into creating these. Okay, and there's something else that I wanted to talk about. This is Helios, Sol Invictus, the sun. I obviously don't have any poems for him because this notebook is completely always in progress. And Selene. And what's interesting is the reason I don't think I have any poems for Selene or Helios is because even though this is quite old and I've been working on it for a while, is as I've been practicing heathenry within the last 4 years, and I've been working through the northern tradition shamanism exercises, and I've been connecting with the moon as male and the sun as female, and I plan to do a video about the sun and the moon and gender, because that's quite interesting, because their qualities don't change from what we think of in traditional paganism, because the moon still has what we think of as traditional feminine qualities, like being caring and nurturing, and the sun is being task driven, for example. But in Norse culture, they had the sun goddess Suna and the moon god Mani, and I don't know, it just speaks to me more. So that's really interesting. So maybe the sun and the moon don't actually have a gender, and they just manifest differently. So that's something I plan on doing another video on eventually. So Zeus, of course, Father Zeus. Hera. I hope that this video is okay. This isn't the best format, but I really wanted to actually show the collages, because I think that this is a great idea for people who don't have a lot of money. I mean, it's not like technically a Book of Shadows for people who, I know there are a lot of Book of Shadows videos, but there's no spells in this. This is literally a book of praise. But it is great for people who don't have money to be able to have a lot of statues. And in fact, I actually used pictures of statues from different pagan catalogs. This is actually the Morgan from Sacred Source, but it just really speaks to me of Athena. That just looks like Athena's spirit to me. And even though on Sacred Source it was the Morgan, it is the Morgan. To me, that's Athena. And from the Mystic Tarot, that the Justice card is Athena. I have another I literally bought a deck of the Mystic Tarot to use as as collaging, and so that I could have another deck for reading and one for collaging, because I really adored the art that much. But yeah, that statue, even though it's the Morgan, to me that is Athena. And so Aphrodite, Artemis. Most of these are probably obvious who they are. Apollo. And the majority of these are done, but you can see that some of these are still kind of floating around. They're not 100% done. So they're still kind of moving around. And obviously my Hermes one had been moved so that I could have it set up with 2 on each side. But yeah, here it is. That would be where it is. And Aries. And Aries is about a lot more than war. He is a very complex god, and he is not he's not a god to be afraid of. I've actually prayed quite a bit to Aries to help me get over anxiety and to help me face fear. And he can, obviously, I put right here, tempering the anger response, because he was prayed to. We actually have records of him being prayed to help temper anger and help control anger. Those are in some of his hymns from ancient Greece. So, even though there are many neo-pagans who may think he's not a god you want to approach, that's really not true. And I actually cut out each verse of this one to make it look like waves for Poseidon. Demeter. Hephaestus, another god that doesn't get enough attention because he's not as exciting as some of the other ones. He's not in a whole lot of myths, but without Hephaestus we wouldn't have the modern world, because you've got to have the hard-working gods that create things, the god of crafts, the god and that's why I've got a picture of a computer right here, and the word techie, because he is the god who pretty much creates the modern world. It's pretty much Hephaestus and Hermes. And Hestia, the flame. I've at this candle wax on this. I've had it set up to Hestia a little too often. That actually was when I decided to get a candle snuffer up there, was because blowing out candles started to make too much of a mess. So I got a candle snuffer. Persephone. Hades. And believe it or not, a lot of these are band names from a goth magazine. So, these are a lot of band names. So you can find a lot of things everywhere. If you're actually looking to create art and you've got it in your mind that you're going to make a collage, then things start popping up at you. So if that's something that you're interested in and it's something that is consuming you and that you're thinking of, then things will start to make sense and you'll start seeing it. So you'll just start saving pictures and start saving them for a long time. This one's Rhea or Kubeli. Most people pronounce that Kybele, but it's actually closer to Kubeli. You can probably recognize this one without me having to even put the name up. That is Hecate, one of the most popular goddesses in modern tradition. A little bit misunderstood. She's not actually a crone, but there you go. Asclepius, the healer god. When I was working as a caregiver, I said a prayer to him every day before I went to work because I saw my working with developmentally disabled adults as sacred, and I really grounded my work in worship of Asclepius because that's something that I think as pagans we should really try to ground everything we do in our religion. We should ground what we do in life. Life and religion are not separate. Hercules or Heracles. Yes, I included a picture of Kevin Sorbo. I'm not a pop culture pagan, but you know, the gods do use pop culture to speak to the regular people. And you might have noticed a backless on my altar, which again, I don't worship Kalis and I don't use those I use those symbols because that was my first. Star Trek means a lot to me and is quite spiritual to me, and the Klingon religion was my very first introduction to a warrior ethos. And in Star Trek, Star Trek is always going to be near and dear to my heart and always be quite spiritual, and I do not worship them as like a thought form like some pop culture pagans, because I think that's a little bit, I don't want to judge someone else's path and call it empty, but the gods do use symbols, and even when I was being raised Christian, that still pulled at me in a way that I didn't understand at the time. So that was still something that I believe may have eventually put me on my path. Yes, Star Trek of all things. So that's why I have a bat'leth on my altar to honor that part of my path. The nymphs, Libertas, of course. The Statue of Liberty is actually the Roman goddess Libertas, the goddess of freedom, which you may or may not know. And of course, here we are back to what I had it originally set up as. And there are, of course, 9 muses, but the 3 that are most important in my life are Calliope, the muse of epic poetry, Polyhymna, the muse of sacred verse and of religion, of course, and Clio, the muse of history. So those are the 3 that I have set up right here. And Isis. Oh. Yep. Yeah, like I said, this one is not entirely finished. And that's it. I'm not going to show you the rest of them. Strangely, I had never finished one to Dionysus, even though Dionysus has been quite active in my life. I'm going to set this back up. Dionysus has been very active in my life. And I do have one for Odin. but that is downstairs on my Odin altar, and at some point I'll probably show you that, but I don't want to show you the other altars right now, mostly because I still have not yet figured out how to edit videos, so that's my fault. I've been super busy. I basically have been working every day of the week, almost. Like, I'm doing this video before I get ready to go to my day job, my mundane world job. Mostly because when I come back from work, I'm so sapped that I won't have energy to do anything spiritual. So I'm doing this first, thankfully. Tomorrow I will be reading runes, August the 4th, at Mystic Beads and Earthware in Niles, Michigan. If you are in the Niles area, the Michiana area, from 1 to 5. Hopefully this video will be up by then, because it does take a long time to upload, but I will also be doing it next Sunday, and August 11th, if you're interested. I tend to do it the first Sunday of the month. If you can't make it this month, I will probably be there the first Sunday of September, if you are interested in that. So I just thought I'd put that little blurb out there. But yeah, I've been crazy busy. I'm sorry I haven't put more videos up. Like I said, I'm living like a nomad, and I'm basically getting ready to move. So when I'm not working at either my readings or my mundane job, I am basically looking for a place to live and getting ready to move. So I've been pretty busy. But I hope that you guys have had a good week, good couple weeks, a beautiful new moon. And I hope that you maybe got some ideas from looking at this altar. So, I guess that's it. I'm just gonna set this back up. Alright. Oh yeah, I guess you should see the top. This says, I am abundant. I am manifesting wealth, prosperity, and abundance in all areas of my life. That's mint, which is sacred to the underworld gods, and also brings a lot of good things like prosperity, wisdom. There's a whole list. Can't think of it off the top of my head. That is because I'm more of a kitchen witch than anything else. And that painting of Athena is done by my friend Samantha Lykia Sanders, who I have a lot of her sacred art, just beautiful stuff. So, thank you. This is Amanda Artemisa Forrester, rune reader, diviner, and polytheist mystic, signing off. Have a good night.